Welcome to the lesson on layouts direction. Understanding layouts and flex directions in Opus is hugely important. If you understand the basics of how to build layouts, how to build them from the ground up, then you won't struggle to build more complex layouts in the future. And layouts really can get very complex. Some of the designs you'll be getting for clients applications will require you to really understand the basics, the foundational building blocks of building layouts in Opus. So what we have here is another container. It's a dashboard because it's single page, meaning it's full screen, and we've got just a background color. What I'm going to do is add two icons to illustrate what we're working with. So let's add one icon, phone, and home, just like ET. You'll see them there at the top. So as we discussed in the previous lesson on how to center elements, you can add main axis to this one, and cross axis, which will put them at the center for us. Now you'll see that they are currently vertically aligned, so they're above each other or not horizontal. And that's because by default, the direction property is set to vertical. dir means direction, it's vertical, and this corresponds to the CSS property called flex direction. It's the same thing. So still the same because we're vertical. Once we change this to horizontal, we'll see that change happening. And this is because we're still centered, and being centered in vertical or horizontal mode is still the same points in the middle. But where it gets interesting is when we start changing main axis align and cross axis align. So let's just go through these again. Our main axis is the direction. So if it's always good to draw these out. If we're working horizontally, this is our plane. We have two icons. Our main axis is this axis. So when I'm talking about main axis align, if I say my main axis align is going to be center, it's centered horizontally. So this size there and this size there is the same size. If we change this to start, the main axis, then our main axis, which is the horizontal axis, will move it to the start, like this. Similarly, if we change this to end, our main axis, which is the horizontal axis, moves to the end. Same thing with the cross axis. So now the cross axis is the axis that isn't your main axis. So it's the axis that's perpendicular to your main axis. So when we change it to axis, if we change it to cross axis start, will be there. Cross axis center will be there. And cross axis end will be there. Something else you will also use often is space between and space around. So let's look what those look like. Let's move these back to center. Now let's change main axis to space between. You'll see then that all the space that is available is between them. Space around. Now it splits up the space so that the space is also used for before and after them. In the lesson material for this lesson, you'll find a link to justify content and line items, the two CSS properties that are being used here. So similarly, in the same way that dir corresponds to flex direction, crossAxisAlign and mainAxisAlign also correspond to justify content and align items.